has a unique genre, and yet people are able to memorize it. Other people, even though they try because of this religious connection to memorize the Bible, the New Testament and Old Testament, they're not able to memorize as much as they want to. Okay? How many in your lifetime that you have met, they have memorized the whole of the Greek New Testament? It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be children, adults.
I don't know many.
This is something that you can do. Do some research through the libraries, academic institutions, or even internet, on your phone, on your computer. What's the number of people who have memorized the entire Greek New Testament in Greek? Doesn't matter whether they're professors of Greek language, or a child, or an adult. How many of them? If they're not many in number, why is it difficult? One question. And secondly, is it because they don't consider it's important, or is it because which one they should memorize? Because they haven't got a particular one which they think is the one unique one.
Have they had the same
older than
of memorizing it? They may not put the same importance on memorizing it.
Sure.
All the way back.
Do you know why we consider it's also important? Because memorization of the text will preserve the text in your heart. You can change it on paper. You can transform it differently in transcription. But when you have preserved in your heart to heart by mass community of people, and they transmit from generation to generation, you will not be able to change it. So you can destroy whole of the Quran in printed media, in CDs, in DVDs,
Chapter 54,
in any of this, digital media, whatever you, all of them. You can bring the Quran back from a 6-year-old the next moment you want to do that.
Yeah.
Why? Because that's how the preservation of the Quran is. So my brother's point here is the Quran has a unique special feature of its divine authenticity, in which God made it easy to remember so that it can be preserved also from generation to generation. How is it subjective? When you say subjective, if it wasn't objective, then you would say only some people can memorize it.
Do you think every person who's tried to memorize it has memorized it?
Okay. Think of a number.
Or do you think somebody has tried to and gone,
let me ask you to reflect. How many people do you think at right now have memorized the Quran on planet Earth? Give me a rough estimate.
I don't know. Give me how many Muslims in the world?
1/4 of the world population or more.
I'd probably say, I guess, 1/4 of them, maybe.
Right.
10% of them.
So 10% of them, that's a large number who memorized it. So isn't that showing something that's actually easy to remember? Otherwise you'd find maybe 100, 200, 1,000.
If it was that easy, why is the other 90%? If it was easy.
Maybe the other 90% are not making that effort.
Yeah, maybe. We don't know. They could be making
Well, we know they're not making that effort.
No, we don't know.
We do. Okay, fine.
Maybe.
In London, there are several mosques around. And we can go to a mosque in Maghrib time or Isha time. These are after sunset, or just a little bit later in the early morning, early part of the night. The Quran is recited aloud. You'll find people listening to it. You can ask a certain number of people in the congregation, have you memorized the Quran? They say all of it. If they say no, ask them why not. You'll get your answer straight away. It's not that they say, okay, I tried and tried for 30 years.
Do you know of many people who've tried and failed?
Who tried and failed?
Okay.
Personally, no.
Can you observe first how did they try? Okay, I
don't know how you taught it. So
I can open a book, right? Read the book once. Then I say I tried to memorize the book, but I couldn't. Is this really trying? Right?
All right. So do you know any people who've gone through the correct procedures, read it, how many times you have to?
I want to make a few points,
and it will not stick in your head.
I want to make a few points. First point is every Muslim must memorize a part of the Quran. Like for example, chapter 1, other verses to recite when they pray. Right? So every Muslim memorizes a part of the Quran. That is a fact, right? They cannot pray otherwise. Or except if they're new Muslim. Except if they're a new Muslim, right? Then they start to memorize, right? So take the time to memorize. But every Muslim, in order for you to pray, you must memorize a part of the Quran. So what is unique about the Quran? Not just the fact that they memorize. What you're thinking about in your mind, that you're reading a book in your language. I'm telling you, pick a book in a language that you don't understand, right? So when you don't understand something and you're saying, it's easy to memorize something that you understand. Because, right, you understand what you're saying. But if you don't understand what you're saying, it's much, much, much harder, right? So I'm giving you an example of a book in one of the hardest languages of the world, right, which is Arabic, in the Asian form of it, and it's being memorized. I'm not just giving you any language that is your language, that is easy, that... You understand what I'm trying to say? That's what makes it miraculous in a sense, right? So there is a claim in the Quran. What I'm trying to say is that there is a claim in the Quran, right, that the book is easy to memorize. This claim is proven in the physical reality. You can see this claim in the physical reality. And that gives us credibility for the Quran, right? Because it's not just a claim here or there. When he makes a claim, you see it. Yeah, you want to say something? Yeah. When he makes a claim, we see it on the physical reality, right? So that gives it credibility.
I'm not sure I find for you that because if we go by, say, I don't know, say if we go by that 10% that I said, if it was easy, which means it's not, oh, you can do it if you really try, it's easy. Why are the other 90% or even, alright, some people won't try, I'll give you that, some people probably don't care about it as much. Why is it not a bigger number then? Why does not say 8 out of 10? It's no, that's by hand. It's easy.
Is 10% a small number?
I don't know.
Especially if you look at the population of Muslims.
No, the 10% is out of the population of Muslims. Right? So that 10% is 10% of the population of Muslims.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, is that a small number?
Yes.
Millions is a small number.
In terms of the entire population, yes, 10%, 100%.
Okay. The rest of the people, right? What we know as Muslims is the Quran is not obligatory to memorize, right? So they might not memorize because they don't want to memorize. The person who wants to memorize is the person who wants, he believes this is the words of Allah, yeah? So he holds this in high esteem. So he wants to memorize it because of that, right? So the fact that many people are not memorized because it's not obligatory for you to memorize anyways in the first place.
But what I'm saying is easy. So, if it's easy.
Even if it's easy.
But if it's easy, why is it not 9 out of 10 if it's easy to memorize?
99% of Muslims memorize it if it's obligatory to do so. If it's not obligatory to do so, the question should be, why would they memorize it? Not why wouldn't they memorize it? The default position is that you don't memorize. So you need a reason to memorize. So you got it mixed the other way, right? So if I want to memorize something, I must have a reason to memorize it. So as long as it's not obligatory in Islam to memorize the Quran, the people who do it, they do it out of voluntarily act because they hold it in high esteem more than the other people, right? That's why we have this population of 10% of Muslims memorizing. But this 10%, different ages, different languages, different places, proves that there is something about the Quran. It's not just an ordinary book that you memorize.
What other special features of the Quran that you'd like to share? So one, this is memorization.
Maybe try to move on to something else.
Yeah, definitely. What we would like to come to is the existence of that, right? Because you said that you're agnostic, right? This is how you.
Try to tell you a question I do have about not particularly to your religion, just the idea of creating. Sure. Is this creator has created absolutely everything. Small atoms, furthest galaxies, all the rest of it, everything inside it. I can't make the leap of why he cares about very minor details in religion, say circumcision, where you pray, the amount of times you do it a day. I think these would be very, very minuscule things in such a grand creator of everything. These very, very small details. Could I don't know what it's like in your religion, could decide to burn in hell forever or go to heaven. I'm not saying murder, like he doesn't care about murder. I'm saying if you pray 4 times instead of 5, or you pray at the wrong time, or you're not circumcised. I don't understand why something that grand would care about such small issues.
So there's 2 reasons, right? First reason is this, what I want to ask you. There is a person who is a manufacturer, right, or a creator of something, right? And he creates something, right, that you don't know how that something works. So he writes a manual where he gives you every specific detail of how that thing functions, right? And we have another manufacturer who made something, and he just told you one or 2 things about that thing that he made. Which one is a better manufacturer or creator?
No, I don't mean how to live your life.
I never spoken about how. I'm just giving a hypothetical example, right? Some 2 people who made something, you don't know how to operate that something. But one told you every specific detail of how you operate it, and another person who told you one or two things and he left you to deal with. Which one is a better? It's a simple question. Which one?
Wrong. I don't know if I've asked the question, but it's not. It's not. He's telling.
I'll tell you how it links to the point if you answer the question.
Well, obviously, if you give more detail of how something works, that's better. But he's not. I'm not. The question I'm asking is not what he's telling us how the world works. What I'm saying is, why does he care? For example, with what?
If you allow me to finish, you'll understand. You'll understand that I was not talking about the world, right? I was talking about the functions of human beings. I was talking about what is good, what is bad for human beings. Human beings by nature, they require guidance. That's why we have laws. That's why we have our parents teaching us things when we're young. We require guidance, right? God giving us specific guidance proves how great He is, not the opposite, right? So Allah giving us details of what is good to us, what is bad for us. Circumcision is good for you, that's why Allah made it. Told you to do it, right? Drinking alcohol is bad for you, that's why Allah forbade you from doing it. Eating pork is bad for you, right?
A lot of things are bad for people.
Show me one thing which is bad, right? That Islam tells you to do.
It tells you can do.
Yeah, not can do, you have to do something like
Tell
that.
you to do. It orders you to do.
Orders you to do or allows you to do.
You can do anything bad out of your own will, right? I'm asking you in the system, Islamic system, what does the Islamic system order you to do which is bad for you?
I don't know the...
So here, if you don't know, obviously we don't find anything, right? If we don't find anything that proves the Islamic system, to an extent, until you research and find something, the Islamic system is perfect. It's perfect. It doesn't have anything bad, right? So if Islam tells you things which are good for you, what is the problem with that? That makes Allah a greater creator, right? It makes Him the greatest, as we call Him, right? Because He gave you every specific detail. If He did not give you every specific detail, and you started to do something which is harming yourself, right? That proves the manufacturer left you without guidance.
What? I don't know what I'm thinking. What is it about circumcision? It's bad for you if you don't have it, or good for you if you do have it. Because He created us with one. Right? He designed us with a foreskin and then He wants us to cut it off. Like little things like that. Not what's good or bad for our health. Don't take drugs. I get those things. But little details like I'm designing you with something, and then you immediately have to cut it off. And if you don't, I'll be very mad at you.
Nothing in Islam says that, though. Nothing in Islam says if you don't, I'll be very mad at you. In fact, in the schools of thought, there's difference of opinion whether it's obligatory or not, right? So, this is what you should look at, right? Is it obligatory? Is it not obligatory in Islam to begin with, right? But the main reason is what? If the Quran is only coming from Allah, right? It's coming from Allah, it's coming from the Creator. The Creator, by definition, knows His creation. Do you agree? Whatever Creator created something, He knows His creation, right? So when the Creator, the one that has infinite wisdom and infinite knowledge, do you have infinite wisdom and infinite knowledge, right? We don't have infinite wisdom and infinite knowledge. So when Allah tells us something, we do it because we know it's good for us, because it's coming from the one who has infinite wisdom and infinite knowledge. The reason that we do it is many reasons. One of them is worship. Following the command of the Creator is worship to the Creator, right? The second one is because it's good for you. Definitely good for you, because it's coming from the All-Wise, right? So you're worshipping Him, you're being obedient, and you're surrendering yourself when you follow the commandments of the Creator, right? So God is giving you commandments to do. If Allah made everything simple for you, you don't have to do anything. What's the point of creating you in the first place? There will be things that you have to do, right? As a form of obedience, as a form of connecting with your Creator, as a form of being spiritually fulfilled, right? So is that the problem, your problem with the Creator?
My problem with the idea of creating a small it is divided.
Can I just add something to it? You were basically saying, while small, very minor issues lead people to eternal damnation and suffering in hellfire, but that's not what we say that will be in everlasting hellfire. If there are people who are violating certain commands of God, you need to understand what commands this came under each category. Whether it's absolutely forbidden, or they are simply saying, okay, you shouldn't do it as a dislike. The levels of categories of absolutely mandatory to absolutely forbidden, and in between there are dislike and recommended and permissible. There are 5 categories. The legislation from God comes in the 5 categories. One end is absolutely obligatory for everyone to do, mandatory. The other extreme is totally forbidden. You have to abstain from doing that. In the middle is which is called permissible. Doesn't matter whether you do or not do it. And in between, there's one which is recommended, and others which is disliked. So if it's something like, for example, someone couldn't do circumcision for medical reasons or he's scared or whatever, it's not going to put them in hellfire for eternity. What puts people in hellfire for eternity are the major crimes God has told us about.